effort now from Gerolsteiner. This is a hard climb when you're riding flat out. Santiago Botero going round third wheel for Eric Zabel's squad. The gap, though, has opened back out to 35 seconds.
I told you, when you ride up the Champs-Élysées for the first time, it's not so bad. When you ride up it twice, it seems to get a little bit steeper. But when you've ridden up it 5 or 6 times, it's as if somebody's at the far end with a jack and they're cranking it up every time you come around. And it gets more and more difficult. Let's not forget, it might not look very much if you want to meander up and down and have a cup of coffee in one or two of the very nice cafes down here. But if you're riding up and down this race after 2,500 miles at 50-odd kilometers an hour, it is not an easy thing to do. But there you can see Sandy Cassar at the back of the pack has reintegrated the peloton. Well done, Sandy.
Took him a complete lap, almost to the point where he fell off. He is now rejoined 1 lap later. He was looked after there by the champion of Australia, Matty Wilson won his title down in Ballarat in January this year. Great result for him, and he also is finishing this tour looking very, very good. Lance Armstrong, he's on top of all of the 170 riders in this year's Tour de France. He will win for the 6th year straight. He will be the outright record holder, but there's still a little matter of just over 3 laps to go to find out the winner of the day and the winner of the green jersey.
I tell you what, Armstrong is not taking any risks at all. He's keeping himself placed at the front end of the main field. He's not yet left the top 20 riders of the day. He wants to make sure he's not involved in any of those accidents or incidents, because if he is, he himself says you can always lose the Tour de France right up until the very last kilometre of the event, which is why he doesn't want to get involved in any of the argy-bargy at the front.
Well, the peloton courses down up past our commentary position. They are absolutely flying. You can feel the wind coming in through the open windows of the commentary position as the riders race down. And these boys will still feel they have a chance. There's Scott Sunderland. First time we've had him in our camera as close as that since the race began. What an achievement it is for Scott Sunderland as well. And it will be absolutely wonderful if he were to win the stage today.
Onto the Place de la Concorde, the main field stretched out into a huge long line, but still the teams of the sprinters are trying to pull it back together. 32 seconds is the gap now of the 10 leaders back to the front end of the main field, and these men at the front field still do not seem to be weakening.
Well, there is the field. This is the breakaway, and that it's foreshortened by our camera lens. They are still, according to our computer, 36 seconds is the split here. Coming down a little bit now, 33. We focus on Thomas Voeckler there in the center of this breakaway of 10, who are still hanging on. 33 seconds is the gap. We are coming round to 3 laps to go, and for 3 circuits now, Paul, they have only lost 7 seconds of their advantage. And O'Grady's heart monitor, by the way, is now ticking at 147 beats a minute. I'm not surprised right now.
I'm not surprised. It's his teammates on the front. That's David Moncoutier of Team Cofidis, who is whipping up the pacemaking. Moncoutier himself, a winner of a stage in the Tour de France after a very long breakaway. And they're trying to set this up for their man, Stewie O'Grady. I don't think O'Grady can get himself the win in the green jersey points classification, but he certainly has the ability to win the sprint if this race all comes back together at the end of the day. Eric Zabel too wants to win. He's sent up 1 or 2 of his men there. Santiago Botero whipping up the pacemaking. And maybe if it comes down to a lead out for the sprint for Eric Zabel, we may well see number 11, Jan Ulrich, trying to place Zabel into the ideal position to win the stage. This to me is the most beautiful place for a sprinter to win in the whole world of professional cycling.
Well, I can't disagree with that. Just look at this crowd here. Not too far from the President's house, by the way. I don't think he's coming out to see us today, but we're running around the back of his garden as they race across the Place de la Concorde and head into the Place the Champs-Élysées again. This time they're going to see 3 laps to go, I believe. Just reading out the window. And this group of 10 riders are still holding on. They went through with 37 seconds last time. It looks like they might go through with 31 this.
Coming down slowly but surely onto the Champs-Élysées. We'll get an exact time split once they cross the finishing line and they see that board that says 3 laps to go, but I believe it will be inside of the 30-second mark, because the teams now at the front end of the main field are really starting to turn up the screws. It's all pink on the front. It's T-Mobile. T-Mobile, Phil, in this year's Tour de France, do not have a stage win to their credit. They really would like to get a win.
Amazing, isn't it?
Why not with a man like Eric Zabel? He is a great competitor.
There they go, 3 laps to go. They know exactly how far to go now. Over their shoulder comes the peloton here, and it looks as though it might be relaxing again just a little bit. This race has still got a chance here for those 10 leaders. It's all down to these boys on the front now, as Moncoutier followed by Giuseppe Guerini. The workhorses have got to pull this race back together and pull it back reasonably quickly now, because time is running out for those sprinters in the pack.
23 seconds as they crossed over the finishing line. The teams of the sprinters are now starting to get it under control, but they've been put under an unbelievable amount of pressure on this final few laps of the Champs-Élysées. There's Scotty Sunderland, one of the oldest bike riders in the Tour at 37 years of age. Only one man older than really Yaroslav Ekimov, who's on the team of the man who's going to win this race for the 6th time, Lance Armstrong. The gap now is slowly but surely starting to come down as they go up the long ascent here off the Champs-Élysées, and I can tell you, Phil, it is really burning in their bodies. Look at the face of Axel Merckx there. That tells you just how hard it is. Well,
Merckx is finishing 21st in this Tour de France, and that's a great result for Axel. He always suffers from his dad, of course, who won the Tour 5 times, as well as 5 Tours of Italy. His dad was the greatest cyclist who ever pedalled a bicycle, and he's had to live with that through his career. He's put in some wonderful performances of his own. He has been the champion of Belgium as well, and now he's in the breakaway. And I tell you what, if he were to win this, Dad would be in tears. Dad would be in tears, I would think, for 2 reasons. Not only because his son would win the final stage, but I think Eddie Merckx would be very happy with the fact that Lance Armstrong is about to win the Tour de France for a 6th time. The power now, for the first time, Phil, is starting to disappear away from that leading group of 10. You cannot imagine how difficult the ascent is here off this climb. And it's now down to 15 seconds, and you can see the main field has got the prey in sight. Yes, this is the lap which is telling, and they are sensing the catch here as T-Mobile lead the charge from the back of the bunch, trying to bring Eric Zabel back into play. And others will profit by this. That's Paolo Bettini leading around the top here. This is a perfect move for Paolo, just the sort of group he likes to go in and win the day from. Let's go back to have a look as T-Mobile, Rolf Aldag brings them around here. Moncoutier next around the corner there. It's still not over yet as they line up. 15 seconds is the official gap as we now push the gear levers forward and go as fast as you can down the other side. O'Grady, 153 the beats now on Stuart O'Grady's heart monitor. A lot of these bike riders have got a maximum heart rate of between 185 and 195. And I would think 1 or 2 of these riders have got their heart rate monitors screaming at the moment. They can set them up to the maximum, and when they go over the maximum, it starts beeping. And I think 1 or 2 of these heart rate monitors will be beeping here as riders try to stay in contact with the main field. Acceleration on the way down from the summit of the Champs-Élysées and in the shadows of the Arc de Triomphe. It's here that you can touch around about 55 kilometers an hour. And there you can see they've actually started to whip up the pace again. And they're just going to hope to survive if they can. But I think the teams of the sprinters will have their day. But it might go down to the final lap of the circuit. Well, we're looking at Lance Armstrong being shadowed by the man who will finish 2nd in this race in the white, Andries Clouden. It's not long to go now. We'll be back for the big finish on the Champs-Élysées. Tour de France still working out how they can catch Thomas Voeckler and the other 9 men in this breakaway. We've gone out to 19 seconds. We've just gone back to 13 seconds. And that is because Jan Ullrich himself has just hit the front. He's gone off again now to try and bring this race back together once more. Well, this time when we see them swing into the Champs-Élysées, they're going to see only 2 more circuits to go as they race towards the climax of the 2004 Tour de France. There's only one winner, of course, and he's safe and sound. Lance Armstrong, he will win this race by a massive margin of almost 7 minutes. But who's going to win the last stage? Well, that's the important thing. It, I think, is going to go down to the sprinters now, because I think when we cross the finishing line, the advantage of those 10 men is not going to be very much more than 10 seconds. The main field is stretched out completely and utterly. You can see the elastic there is about to snap. The reason it hasn't is because this is the final stage on the Champs-Élysées. This is because every bike rider in that group wants to stay in the main field for the last time in the 2004 Tour. And look at that gap. It is just inside of 10 seconds. I make it 8. Well, that is very, very close, and surely now they will find the strength to finish this one off as they head up. The Americans are all set fair to celebrate now. They've been standing here since 8 o'clock this morning. It was chilly then too, but it's a beautiful day now. It is a scorcher here in the centre of Paris, and these riders have turned on the style. And Thomas Voeckler, as we've come to know him, doesn't know the meaning of the word slow down.
He does not. They've split the group just a little bit here. As you can see, Pereiro coming across the gap there. Axel Merckx won't give up either. That's big Axel on the front. He's actually a few inches taller than his father, Eddie Merckx, who won this great race on 5 separate occasions. I wonder if he'll be here at the finishing line to congratulate Lance Armstrong when he takes the glory of being the first man ever to win the Tour de France on 6 occasions. It's now down to 9 seconds, but I think it's a lot less than 9 seconds. I think it is all over for that leading group of 10.
It is all over. Well, what a race that was. They went away with 7 to go. We're now at 2 to go, and there's another attack gone from front. Paolo Bettini is gone. He's just the sort of move he would make, that little man. Never gives up, as he now has caused a reaction again. There might be a few new names coming across as well as they go into what was the old sprint point on the first lap. Doesn't count anymore. As Paolo Bettini tries to dig, it looks as though we've got Pereiro going as well, and Carsten Kroon.
Carsten Kroon up there in 3rd place, and there Thomas Voeckler has stayed in contact with the group, and just tagging onto the back there is the rest of the group. You can see this group is just hoping to survive, but what they've done with this attack from Paolo Bettini is basically just prolong the agony. The front end of the main field is looking very ragged indeed. A lot of riders are just hoping to stay in contact. Carsten Kroon now makes the counter-attack in the red and blue and white jersey of Rabobank around the top with a slight advantage.
Paolo Bettini wanted a bit of help there. It wasn't forthcoming, as there still is a recognised gap here. Ralph Aldag brings the main field around that top end. There is still a gap because these boys have hit their upper limits here, and they need a chance of a slowing to cross the gap. And it looks as though Carsten Kroon has realised that fact, and he's going to fight for his life and go again. This is a very good move by Kroon.
Good move, but there's still a long way to go. 1.5 laps of the Champs-Élysées, and that corresponds to around about 9.5 kilometers of racing. Kroon now on the far side. Look how he goes right up against the gutter. That is the smoothest part of the Champs-Élysées there on that guttering. It's a very smooth part. Once you come in about 12 inches, you're riding over cobblestones. The bike is bouncing all over the place. If we could look back, we would probably see that the main field is right on his tail.
Well, Carsten Kroon in only his 2nd Tour de France. Last year he finished 146, but he got a stage win in Plouy over in the west of France. And now Voeckler, as this just comes again, he's the odd rider out of the line there, looking who's going to come through and work. That breakaway, you know, is still away, and the gap has gone out again.
Just holding, just hovering. It's taken a man by the name of Jan Ullrich to bring the gap down from 15 seconds to 6 seconds. But these men will not give up the ghost. They want to stay off the front end of the main field. It's going to be a tall order now, because I know the sprinters can smell the victory. They can almost taste the victory, and that is what they want on these sacred, hallowed cobblestones of the Champs-Élysées. It's on the Champs-Élysées that the sprinters want to show off to the world just how dramatic their finishing spurt can be.
Well, it's still Bettini driving. We have 9 riders left. Axel Merckx is still, I think we've got all of most of it. And Ullrich has just hit the front of the peloton, and he has strung that peloton out. Look at that. That is Jan Ullrich driving on the front. Gosh, he's got such talent.
If you want a big engine, you have to have a man like the name of Jan Ullrich. He's closed it down completely. He's done some very big turns over the last few laps, and he went to the front around about half a lap ago to whip up the pace to help out his teammates. It's all over now. The group of 10 at the front have been brought back into the main field. Now the teams of the sprinters have to keep control, because that, Phil, was a very vicious and hard chase down.
It was a very hard chase down. For a moment there I thought it wasn't going to happen, but then Ullrich decided we've got to stop this now, otherwise there's no time to recover. That was an incredible session, and now again Phonak. Without Tyler Hamilton, this team has been a great team. They launch yet another attack and they never do things by halves. There's always two of them.
Nicolas Jalabert now off the front. His brother Laurent will be not too far away on the motorbike for French television, probably commentating on his own brother, saying, go on, give it everything you've got, because the Jalabert family have been very famous over the years at the Tour de France. Brother Laurent won the green jersey, and he won the King of the Mountains jersey, and he also won a large number of victories on the finish in places like Brussels, but he never got the glory of a finish on the Champs-Élysées.
Well, those waters of the River Seine look rather inviting right now as the riders race alongside them. Now swing left, heading up towards the Tuileries again. Once more all together, the green jersey of McEwen, very watchful. It's only about 15 men down the line. This will be the bell this time. They have about 1.5 kilometers to get to the start of the last lap of the Tour de France.
Fabien Cancellara had moved quite a way up to the front, but look at this counter-attack by the French national champion. He's got himself about 20 or 30 meters advantage as they go under the shadows here of Joan of Arc, looking down and witnessing the final stage of the 2004 Tour de France. She'll get a chance to see them one more time when they come up here on the last lap. Inside 2 kilometers to go. They're looking now for the red kite, and when they come up here, that will indicate to them that they've got around about 7 kilometers to go to the finish. But it's looking very ragged on the front end of the main field, and that looks very much as if we've got 1 or 2 riders from FDJ moving forward. This is Fabien Cancellara making a move.
Remember him 3 weeks and 1 day ago. He was winning the prologue time trial in Liège. He was the first leader of the Tour de France. It was his first day in any Tour de France. He's still in the race.
The race is split again, a small group going off the front. There's Baden Cook, not too far away from the front end of the main field. He hasn't had a big sprint at all in this year's Tour de France, but because of the pressure of the chase on the front end there by Jan Ullrich, we may well see a move just split off on the final lap. There you can see about 12 or 14 riders have got a lead over the main field.
Well, they come across the Place de la Concorde for the penultimate time of the 2004 Tour de France. They turn now. This will be the opening of the sprint when they come back next time. There's still concern. This is Dalcruz on the left of our picture now. There's still confusion. Eric Decker, the man who started the last break and fell back, is now in this break as well. There's the bell. 1 lap to go, the Champs-Élysées in this year's Tour de France. It'll be a lap of honour for Lance Armstrong, but for someone else, it's going to be a stage win as well.
Well, the sprinters there, they're pulling it all back together. Look at the man who is there in 3rd position in the pink helmet. Excuse me, but that is number 11, Jan Ullrich. Counter-attack going on the far side. Fassa Bortolo looking for the gap. This is, again, Fabien Cancellara.
Well, this is a big, tough man here. He showed us his pure speed in the prologue time trial. He is a good sprinter as well, but they're closing it down. It looks like Gutierrez is coming up on his back wheel. And the field, I've never known the field be under so much pressure on the last stage of the Tour de France like this.
This has been a very hard last week of racing here, and what an acceleration there coming from the team of Fassa Bortolo. They've got 1 or 2 riders off the front. The main field are trying to control, but I think right now everybody is throwing out the sandbags. Anything they've got, any extra weight is being ejected as quickly as possible, because this is a very difficult final ascent of the Champs-Élysées. Looking under his shoulder there, he's looking to see if there are any shadows. Has anybody got onto my wheel? But no, they haven't, so he'll keep the pressure on. He's looking for the corner at the top. You see how he swung across that smooth little pavement at the side of the road to try and keep the pace as high as he can, around about 50 kilometers an hour.
Well, as we watch now, an incredible performance being put up here by a man who's come into his first Tour de France and now trying to move away from the field. This is an incredible move, and the whole field are having a big deal of difficulty hauling him back. That, in fact, looks like Christophe Moreau is still there. We've got the champion of Holland on the left, the champion of Luxembourg on the right, similar jerseys as they now try to bring him back. Cancellara is now leading the Tour de France. Can he top and tail it?
Well, he's got to get around that top corner. If he can, he'll lose a little bit of time. This climb here, you cannot believe it. It is interminable. There's Gilberto Simoni on the left-hand side there in the red jersey of Team Seiko. The gap as he goes round the top is 3 seconds over the main field being led by Phonak. What he has to do now is find some power to lift himself up to 60 kilometers an hour. That's the kind of speed you need to find if you're going to stay off the front end of the main field.
Well, there's no way, surely there's no way the man fabulous there. In fact, we're looking here at Juan Antonio Fletcher right now, who's going up. This is Fletcher in the lead now, and this is a surprise, but we've seen this is what happened at Angers. Our computer did switch to Cancellara, but it switched back now to Fletcher, the man who won a stage last year and has tried on at least 3 occasions to win a stage in this fashion this year.
If you want to win here, you've got to ride at 60 kilometers an hour, but the main field will be charging down off the summit of the Champs-Élysées at around about 70 kilometers an hour. This is a slight decline down to the Place de la Concorde. It's the final lap of the Champs-Élysées. It's the final anger in the pedals of the riders in the Tour de France this year. On the front, it's Quick-Step de Wittemont have got control. There you can see on the front end of the main field the riders trying to set this up for Tom Boonen.
Well, I must say it's the first time we've seen Sherwen Knaven setting the pace for about a week and a half. He's been quite ill, but he's now on the front of that pack trying to bring Boonen back into play. With Juan Antonio Fletcher, I've never seen a Spanish rider ride like this guy can on the flat road. Spanish riders are climbers. This rider can do most things, but again the pack is running at him. It is so desperately close. He got wiped out in Angers, then we had the big crash. Out of the crash came Tom Boonen to win the stage. Now Fletcher is being caught at a similar distance from the finish, right in the centre, and staying out of trouble, I hope, is Lance Armstrong. He doesn't need any of these problems now. This is the win for the last stage, and everybody wants it. Sherwen Knaven setting the pace.
Burying himself for his team sprinter this afternoon, and this team sprinter is by the name of Tom Boonen. Right up there in third place was the Australian Michael Rogers. He dreamed to finish in the top 20 of the Tour de France. He's going to run out 22nd overall, but all that is irrelevant right now, because what they have to do is set a very fast pace on the front end of the main field to try and get their man Tom Boonen into the ideal place, into that final corner. But there are still 3 corners to go before he comes into the final 400 meter. The whole of the main field is together in around about 40th position. Lance Armstrong is not getting involved in any of the action and activities at the front end of the main field. He is now counting out the final few kilometers of the Tour de France this year that will see him run out as the winner for the 6th year in a row. The pink jerseys moving forward. Eric Zabel is not far away. There is Stewie O'Grady too in about 8th position.
I'd like to know his heart rate now. It's probably blowing off the computer on his handlebars there. Armstrong knows that shortly he will see the kilometres go kite under international rules. Any problems after that point won't count. He will have won the Tour de France. A kilometre out, he can safely come home. But there's still a lot at stake here now. Michael Rogers and Sherwen Knaven, 2 strong men. Rogers is going to have a great year, and I can see a gold medal for that man in Athens too. He turns into the tunnel now. We can't go in there because we've not worked out yet how to make cameras work, but they're going to come out the other side, and it is going to be one big sprint here.
It's going to be a massive sprint. This is the place of the sprinters, the Champs-Élysées, right in the heart of Paris, in the shadows of the Arc de Triomphe. Armstrong at the back there, a quick glimpse of the number 1.
Blame him.
He's out of the action at the front. He doesn't want to go down in the final kilometre. He wants to enjoy his last kilometre of the Tour de France this year. After all, he's been at the front and won 5 stages as well in the Tour. Now still Quick-Step in complete control, but they seem to have lost a bit of firepower. They're waiting now for Fassa Bortolo to take over the pressure at the front end of the main field. Everybody now is grasping for the front end. It's going to be such a desperate dash for the line.
Well, there's a lot of elbows going out there now, and Baden Cook fancies his chances. He's riding in the guy in the white dead centre. Just moved off the wheel of that Cruz, which he really wanted. Hondo, the second boy in that light blue colour. And watch out too now, because Hushoff and McEwen, they are the 2 that are concentrating on each other for the final green jersey of this year's Tour de France. The advantage has got to go with McEwen now. As they race towards the line, we can announce Armstrong has won his 6th Tour de France. He's inside a kilometre from the line. They now race across the Place de la Concorde for the last time. Now they line up for home. Watch for the rider in the green jersey. He has that habit of popping up out of nowhere. Robbie McEwen, there he is, has won twice here before. Tom Boonen is trying to dig in. He's on the wheel of Zabel. Zabel's on the wheel of Hondo. In the middle is Cook, and the big kick for the line now. But watch Zabel on the right. Zanini is leading on the left. Boonen is coming on the right. Here comes Hondo. Watch out for the rider in green, McEwen. And as they hit the line now, Cookie is trying very hard. It is Tom Boonen who gets it, the rider who won in Angers. And I don't think Robbie McEwen is happy about that. Let's look down now and watch out for Lance Armstrong as he will freewheel across the line. This will be the easiest day of the 21 days of this year's Tour de France. And again, I think Lance is conceding a little bit of time. He lost 15 seconds last year when he couldn't be bothered. He has won the Tour de France. Bonin has won the stage. McEwen has won the green jersey. There he is. What an incredible finish.
Fabulous lead out there by Stefano Zanini as well. Zanini, let's not forget, has won on the Champs-Élysées himself in the past. He just wanted to keep the pace nice and high just to make sure that Tom Boonen didn't get boxed in at any time. But once Tom Boonen there in the middle had a very clear shot at the line, he had a very convincing win ahead of Jean-Patrick Nazon. Robbie McEwen, I think, third or fourth. And on the other side, you can see Stuart O'Grady and Danilo Hondo in fifth place. So McEwen will keep the green jersey. He will win the points classification for Australia for the second time for him, third time in the career for Australia. But the story is Lance Armstrong winning that Tour de France for the sixth time.
Yes, and Lance, as he did last year, slipped to the back of the field, so our cameras couldn't catch him there. They were all hovering at the front to see Bonin take out the spin to Jean-Patrick Nazon. Looks as though O'Grady was very close to beating McEwen. It won't matter because the man who has won the green jersey is McEwen. But Lance Armstrong has set the record. 6 Tour de France victories, and not just 6, but 6 in a row. And I don't think, well, not in my commentating life, we'll ever see that again, Paul.
It is absolutely phenomenal as we look here at Tom Bonin. It's interesting to remember that Tom Bonin actually was a former teammate of Lance Armstrong and
yes,
now has moved across to a different team to be the leader of his own squad. He'll never be a Tour de France winner, but certainly he'll be a prolific winner in stages like this. But we couldn't really see Lance Armstrong looking down that row of riders. He certainly didn't want to go down on the final days on the Champs-Élysées, and he left all the risk-taking to these men at the front. But what a great win there by Tom Bonin.
Well, we look down on the Eiffel Tower. The stage has been run. The sprinters got their day in the end. Lance Armstrong has won his 6th Tour de France. He is now the record holder. Well, what a wonderful situation here on a perfect day in Paris. An American has become the champion in the sport. Americans never once knew how to play. Welcome back. The Eiffel Tower has seen it all before, but what it's never seen is an American win the Tour de France for a record-breaking 6th time. Lance Armstrong is home and dry, and now he can just wait and collect his prizes. Let's have a look first of all at the Pacific Life, a stage results, a second victory in his first Tour de France, and the one everybody wants, of course, in Paris, to Tom Bonin. Jean-Patrick Nazon, Danilo Hondo. These are official, although I must say I've seen the pictures twice, and I think McEwen got 3rd, but he's been given 4th, and Eric Zabel is given 5th. A little bit further down, the last man in the Tour de France can sprint. Jimmy Casper has finished 6th. He's now twice finished last overall in the Tour. Stuart O'Grady got 7th. Baden Cook tried really hard. He got 8th. Going right through here, Julia Dean, the only New Zealand rider in this race, a very good sprinter. He was in 12th place. Frank Renier, Brioche La Boulangère, taking the 15th place of the battle of the sprinters. Going further down, goodness knows how Thor Hushovd got it so wrong. He only got 16th place, while the breakaway man, Scott Sunderland, did well there to hang on to 18th place. Right, well, let's have a look now at our Subaru moment. And, of course, that is driven by what's inside. And we'd all like to know the question, what does drive Lance Armstrong? This man is a superb athlete. He has now done what nobody else has done. And remember, the Americans, this was an alien sport to the Americans until Jonathan Bowyer came in 1981. And now, with Greg LeMond and Lance Armstrong, there's 9 victories since 1985 for America in the Tour de France. The outright record is now owned by one Lance Armstrong. Subaru moment, driven by what's inside. So as we look down on the Seine and the massive conurbation here, there's the Arc de Triomphe, there's Robbie McEwen. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll be looking at all of the winners in this year's brilliant Tour de France. We are back in Paris. The sun is shining. There's a golden hue across the city, and it's on the shoulders of the American Lance Armstrong. He has done it. 6 years after winning the first Tour de France, he's won his 6th in a row, and no one has ever done that, and I wonder if indeed anybody else ever will. There he is as he drifts across to say hi, Jim. Jim is former team manager when he was part of Motorola. They are still very, very close friends. Jim flying here to see him win his 6th Tour. Well, the Champs-Élysées has seen many things happen here, but I'm not sure it'll ever see a man win a 6th Tour de France again, because Lance Armstrong has achieved something we never expected. Absolutely fabulous result. It was a great race. Wisely, Lance wasn't able to give us a 2-arm salute. That was a hectic bunch sprint. He kept out the back, and I don't blame him.
Well, he didn't need to do anything. All he needed to do is make sure he survived the final few laps of the Champs-Élysées, but I think he enjoyed those final few laps. There was an immense crowd out here to cheer him, and I think that was the important thing, to get round there, to enjoy it, and of course, once again, to see the team lead him on to the Champs-Élysées over the first lap. I think that was a special occasion for him and them.
Well, over the years, we have seen the American audience gain ground here, and I mean literally ground. Spectators on the ground in the Tour de France. Everywhere we've walked since the Alps, we have heard only American voices shout at us. That's the way it was from 7 o'clock this morning on the Champs-Élysées. Lance out on the course, deciding very early on to take a glass of champagne with the race director, Jean-Marie Leblanc, who will shortly himself be retiring from that position in the Tour de France. But he, at least, like me, has been around long enough to see someone set 6 records. There's Linda, Lance's mum, enjoying this great moment here in the Tribune Spéciale on the home straight of the Champs-Élysées.
Absolutely. First time she's been to the Tour de France for a couple of years. A little bit further away from the presentation position there is Robbie McEwen.
That's Robbie with his son, Ewan McEwen. So Robbie has got the green jersey, Lance has got the yellow jersey. We'll have a look now at the Foster's general classification, and there it is, 83 hours and a half, let's not forget. Armstrong gets that 6th victory, big victory margins these. 6 minutes 19 over first-timer Andreas Kloden. Ivan Basso, who's promised much, he's confirmed it, finishes 3rd at 6:40. Jan Ullrich will certainly be disappointed, but in all of his races, this is his worst result. But the time gap is big, 8 minutes 50. Jose Acevedo, teammate of Lance, in 5th place, his best finish. He's been 6th. Francisco Mancebo, another great result for him, in 6th. George Tochnik is coming back. He's getting on a bit now, but he's come back with a good result in 7th. Levi Leipheimer, he's been 8th. This time he's 9th. In between, he fell off and was in hospital. I think there's still a lot of great riding to come out of him. Oscar Pereiro rode well today in the break, didn't he? But he was finishing 10th in his first Tour de France to match up with his great rides in the Tours of Spain and Italy. Pietro Cauchioli, another first-timer, and he's got a big future. They say the teams are after him. He got 11th. Vladimir Karpich got the rookie jersey in the end. Lucky 13 for him. Richard Virenque, now 7 times a king of the mountain. He completes the top 15. These are the boys. They kept this strip under the bed until it was time to bring it out. The yellow and blue. They changed the colours for the day, and they continued to do their job, and that was escort their man, Lance Armstrong, around Paris today, as they have done around Belgium and France these past 3 weeks. It has been a wonderful occasion for the team. And there is Robin Williams, who enjoys all of it. He speaks a great French, and he knows everybody here now. He's always been part of the show here as Lance has gone off winning. Guess he just spotted us looking at him there. He gets his bike out, by the way. He rides with Lance, and he rides a pretty good bike too. So as we look down on the Arc de Triomphe, we'll take another break. We'll catch up with Lance, and we'll close down the 2004 Tour de France. Stay with us on this great occasion. As we look down on Paris now for this one final time, the racing is done, the presentation is awaited, all the dignitaries are down there, and it looks like we will start with the man in his first Tour de France, celebrates his 2nd win. Tom Boonen gets the one everybody wants in Paris. Well, Paul, you always say when a guy doesn't have a shave, he's going to be a big man on the day, and it worked here.
Well, it's an old wives' tale in the sport of professional cycling that if you really want to give everything to the stage, you don't have a shave, because they reckon it takes just a little bit of that nervous energy away from you. And I think he needed all of that today to win himself this final stage. His second stage win of the Tour.
His second stage win. He won stage 6 into Angers after he came safely through that big crash. This time he wins without any problems as well in a very fast spin. He's now got 15 wins this year, and this is number 2 in the world of cycling behind Alessandro Petacchi.
He's a great bike rider. I think we'll see a lot more of him. The amazing thing, Phil, is that he's still only 23 years of age. He's being presented here with his prize by the Mayor of Paris, Bertrand Delanoë.
Look at that magnificent trophy. That's the one they all want, the one that comes to them only in Paris. And that was a sprint royale as well. But Bohnen showing us he is going to win an awful lot of bike races in the future.
Very well led out by his teammate Stefano Zanini, who, let's not forget, in the past has also been the final winner on the Champs-Élysées as well. He knew just exactly how to lead out that sprint. He knew just exactly where to put Tom Boonen and make sure that he didn't get boxed in the confusion of all of the big sprinters charging to the line.
He's one of the new blood in the Tour de France. We've seen a lot of that this year. He's only 23.5 years of age, and having now won 2 stages, we're going to read a lot about him. I don't think he'll ever be of the composition of an Armstrong to win the race for yellow, but he will always do very, very well indeed. There's the sprint finish yet again. Jean-Patrick Nazon in the white. He was the rider who won last year, this time giving best to Tom Boonen. As we now see Boonen punch the air. What a wonderful feeling it must be. Robin McEwen peeping in the picture there, gets the green jersey. He's won here twice before, by the way, at this last stage in Paris. So he knows what Boonen is feeling like right now. Just waiting now for the maillot jaune, Lance Armstrong, to come forth. He should be the next one as we look down on Paris, ready and waiting to see the winner of the Tour. Well, we're waiting now for the announcement as to who has won the Tour de France. It's not really a secret. 6 times Lance Armstrong. He's won it every time since he began. The sprint has been won by Tom Boonen, but down the back of that field, Lance Armstrong came home today. I think when we see the result, he may have conceded a few seconds in the bunch, but he's not worried about that, is he?
Not at all. He had such a huge advantage at the start of the day. I think he actually sat up a little bit towards the end. And I think the most important thing really for Lance Armstrong was to enjoy his final day. But this, Phil, I think has gone to prove you can never say that Lance Armstrong is the greatest cyclist of all time, because for me that will always be Eddie Merckx. But Lance Armstrong has become the greatest rider of the Tour de France.
Yes, and I'm wondering if next year, to try and remove the myth, he might well pop over and practice in another race like the Tour of Italy or maybe the Tour of Spain, as well as the Tour of France. But that's something, I guess, for the future. I guess we'll ask him that when we meet him. But now is the big moment, and there he is. Lance Armstrong called out now to receive his award from Bertrand Delanoë, Mayor of Paris. And also the ambassador of the United States is here as well. It's a familiar scene. Lance Armstrong has done it 5 times before. Now he salutes the crowd, a record 6th time. And I often wonder, but surely nobody else will win it 6.
Well, we said that when Miguel Indurain won 5 in a row, that nobody will ever do this again. And then along came Jan Ullrich, and we said, Jan Ullrich can do this. This man has got the talent. But Jan Ullrich didn't count on the arrival of a certain man who survived testicular cancer, Lance Armstrong. Armstrong might even come back next year and win it a 7th time.
Ouch.
We won't know.
Well, let's hope he does. The way he rides the Tour de France, his tunnel vision approach to the race, Mum Linda applauding him along with all the other VIPs here. He's got 65 of those lines now to match his yellow jersey. Every time you get a jersey, you get a line. And Lance Armstrong has 65. And there is Sheryl Crow as well. Her first Tour de France. And she's already in touch with the winner.
Absolutely. I think she's enjoyed it. She's been out and ridden on a number of occasions and really enjoyed the experience of Armstrong winning the Tour de France for a 6th record-breaking time.
So Lance Armstrong just always looks a little bit awkward when he's on these podiums. His job, he feels, is winning the races. He's not too sure quite what he should do when he gets up there to receive the awards. He's smiling here. I think this is in fact the ambassador, the United States ambassador to Paris, as he receives the awards here. He must have some big house now to put all these trophies in, and his 65 maillot jaune.
He's got 6 of those trophies anyway in wonder if he's split them up with the teammates, and that is a very worthwhile piece of art to have, because everybody recognized that. That work of art there is synonymous with victory in the Tour de France, and there are 6 on Lance Armstrong's mantelpiece.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Mum Linda applauding. There'll be a big party in the old town tonight, that's for sure. Just down the road, we've got the Texas flag flying from the Hotel Creole, and it has done for the last 6 years now. There is how he's done it. 6 minutes and 19 seconds was the final victory margin for Armstrong over Cloden. And Basso, Cloden gets a bit closer. In fact, Armstrong did concede a few seconds. He was 6:38 at the start of the day, totally immaterial. He did the same thing last year. He gave away 15 seconds in the final finish. He made sure he wasn't going crashing to the ground in any old sprint finish. Basso third. Some good new names coming into the Tour as well, though. The man at the top's familiar, but the other names like Cloden and Basso are new. And also Levi Leipheimer had a great ride, overshadowed of course by Lance Armstrong, but that man rides a good Tour de France, and he's come back after a serious crash in this race last year. He's finishing 9th. Cauchioli, his first Tour, gets 11th. Richard Virenque, 7 times now the king of the mountains. Like Lance, he set his own private record in this year's Tour de France, and he's got 15th place there. Further down, we'll give you the top 20. I'm very impressed with Stéphane Coubert of France. He's got 20. He's not a big name in the sport, but he's 20th in the Tour de France. And Sandy Cassar recovered from his bad luck today. He got 16th. Vogler was our man. He finishes in the end in 18th place. So Bernard Hinault is guiding Lance back onto the stand now, and we should see also the riders to join him in second place. And I don't think Andreas Cloden can believe this. Cloden got the bronze medal on the road race in the Sydney Olympics, where Lance Armstrong got the bronze medal in the time trial at the Sydney Olympics. Ivan Basso alongside them. He finishes third. The Italian who once won the white jersey is now the bronze medalist in the Tour de France.
And the only man to stay with Lance Armstrong on the big mountain stages of the Tour, never once dropped.
Yes, we've heard it now for 6 years, the USA national anthem. This time some unfamiliar names alongside him in the Cloden and Basso. Well, we're going to take another break. Remember, we're live here in Paris, and then we are going to try and get a word with Lance Armstrong. It won't be easy, but we never fail. We will see you after the break. Lance Armstrong, 6 times a winner of the Tour de France. He is the #1. Welcome back. There's a nice view of the Eiffel Tower. It's a long way down, but of course it's a long way up, and it's taken Lance Armstrong 6 straight years to become the champion of the Tour de France outright. Nobody else has equaled him at all. 6 wins in a row. And it'll take a while for Paris to come back to normal today, because there is a tremendous atmosphere here. And on the Champs-Élysées, I think the American language is being spoken a lot more than the French one, as the occasion is enjoyed by many, many people. There he is on the podium. There's Will Smith there, the actor, who's also here. And I have to say, one of my favourite actors as well, as he looks up here at Lance Armstrong, the 6 times winner of the Tour. Takes all the trophies. 2 new boys on the block with him. They haven't been on the podium before. They have ridden the Tour de France before, but not like this. Andreas Cloden on the left and Ivan Basso on the right. Basso on the right here Armstrong said he tried to get him on his team, and I think I know why now, because he gave him so much trouble in the mountains. This has been a superb tour for Lance. I don't think we ever doubted his ability from the moment he finished second in the prologue time trial. He confirmed in the team time trial, but boy, when he got to the Pyrenees, he found he had only one rival left, and the man that conceded nothing to him was Ivan Basso. But the disadvantage for Basso was he can't ride the time trials quite as quickly as Lance Armstrong can. There's Robbie McEwen. He waves to the crowd. He gets the green jersey. He's with his young son, Ewan. I always asked Robbie why he called his son Ewan McEwen, but now I can remember his name easy enough, so that's something, I suppose. There he is, a young Ewan, who's learning to clap his dad, who gets the second time now, that green jersey, in 3 Tours de France. And it was a good battle for Robbie this year, one that I think he fully deserved to win. And he really is one of the fastest sprinters in the world. We're still trying to get hold of Lance. He's only just left the podium, and getting through the security to get hold of him to grab a few words isn't easy. But I'm sure Craig Hummer will be doing his best. So as we see Robbie McEwen there, let's have a look how it all finished. There's the top 5. McEwen, 272 points. In the end, the Hushoff washed away in the final sprint and gets, in the end, 247. Eric Zabel, third. He's won this competition 6 times. That's the record. Stuart O'Grady, who's never quite made it. He's been second, twice, third. Now finishes in 4th place. Danilo Hondo, the other big sprinter from Germany, having a very good season, actually. He's finished in 5th place. I wonder if I can show you the King of the Mountains as well, because that is a 7-time victory now for Richard Virenque. There he is, Richard Virenque on the podium here as the King of the Mountains, and this a prize now which is his on the shelf. He got it for the record time, just like Lance did it in the yellow jersey. And Jean Petalier, just see his head in the shot there. He's the president of the French Cycling Federation, just passing up the final maillot à pois, or polka dot jersey. He's made this competition himself for the last, every time he goes for it, he makes it untouchable, and he knows how to climb mountains pretty fast. Somebody rather cruelly said that Lance Armstrong's the best climber in the Tour de France, but he's not interested in winning this jersey. Might be a little unkind, I think. It's horses for courses. There's the top 5 in the mountains competition, a massive 226, and Armstrong, who never tried to win it, finishes second, 172. Mikael Rasmussen of Denmark, we expected a lot from him, and I think we got it. He tried on a daily basis in the mountains, never worked out for him on time, but he certainly got up there in the King of the Mountains. Ivan Basso challenging here because he followed Armstrong through the mountains. He finished 4th. Jan Ullrich, 5th in this competition, 4 points behind Basso. Ullrich, with his 4th place overall, I guess will be disappointed with his performance in this year's Tour. Now the best rookie jersey, there he is, Vladimir Karpic, 23.5 years of age, this man. An incredible future lies ahead of him. We could see this man one day winning the Tour de France. He has the ability to time trial. When he gets a little bit stronger in the mountains, he will have the ability to win the Tour de France. Let's not forget that, because he came good in the time trial yesterday. He got the white jersey off Thomas Voeckler by putting 6 minutes into him in a 55-kilometer time trial. And at the end of the day, he finished over 5 minutes in front. He had to remove a deficit of 45 seconds yesterday. I think they found a rather special bike rider here in Vladimir Karpic from Russia, as he salutes the crowd. 23.75 years of age. He'll be 24 in the month of September. He's never actually crossed the finishing line first in a bike race, but he has won the Tour of Rioja in the overall classification. I think it's all going to change as we go into the year when he's probably 24. Super guy, I think as soon as he gets his haircut, Paul, Vladimir Karpic, he'll go even a lot faster than that. Look at this now, this is nice. Jan Ullrich, this is T-Mobile now. Andreas Clouden, Giuseppe Guerini, the boys are all going up. Daniel Nardello. Well, you know, he's still a nice guy, Jan Ullrich, and he's still getting a tremendous round of applause here, despite all the ribbon he gets off the press for the way he comes to the Tour. I'd like to say I've been to the Tour 7 times and never finished lower than 4th.
I would like to say that myself. But this man, I think, would have also brought a full complement of riders to the finishing line in Paris here if his teammate Matthias Kessler had not gone down in that very dramatic crash. I think if we remember the way he was thrown to the floor in the Pyrenees, this too would have been a very strong team, and they could have challenged Armstrong, except for the dramatic defeat of Jan Ullrich in the Pyrenees, where in 48 hours he lost more than 5.5 minutes on the Texan.
It was all over by the time he went to the rest day in the Alps, that's for sure. He tried to, he had that final kick, he attacked, as we know, towards the finish to Villard de Lans. They got him back after a 15-mile pursuit, and after that there was no doubt who was going to win the Tour de France. He needs to become a little more aggressive. He does need to, if he wants to win this Tour de France again, beat Lance Armstrong. He's got to become a much more dedicated cyclist. But we were left in no doubt again, Paul. He is the basic, classiest bike rider in the world.
He's the toughest bike rider in the world, and I tell you what, one day he must come back and win the Tour de France.
Be a very popular winner. There is Robbie McEwen. I can see him now, and I suspect, because that's our ground cameras, we've got him, the man himself, the man of the moment. Let's go to Craig Hummer.
Lance, you've made a career of doing things nobody thought was possible. I know you told me it was going to take a couple weeks to sink in, but what were you thinking when you were on the podium with the hat over your heart?
I mean, it's special to stand on arguably one of the most famous boulevards in the world and have your own national anthem played, and to have had it done 6 times it's incredible. And we have a beautiful day. It's just, I mean, with the last laps there, I thought, I want to get this over with. But then I thought to myself, you know, you might ought to want to do a few more laps because you may never do it again, and can't take it for granted.
Everyone, including yourself, makes a big deal about the preparation and how prepared you are for every one of these victories. But the bottom line, my friend, isn't it that you just have a lot of fun doing this?
Well, both. I mean, I do have fun and I do prepare well, but I have fun preparing, I guess you could say. You know, it's like I love my job, I love my team, and I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Congratulations on excellence.
Thank you.
I love my job and I love my team, and that just about says it all, I think, because Lance Armstrong today has become the first man to win the Tour de France, an event which began in 1903. We lost 10 years because of the World Wars. We had 4 men who went 5 times. Lance joined them and immediately went one better.
Really is an incredible performance, Phil, and I just cast my mind back to 1996 when I went to visit him in a hospital in Indianapolis, and I saw Lance Armstrong with no hair on his head and no eyebrows, and I was told that he had no possible chance of living. I was told he had 3 months to live. And to see him on the road of the Champs-Élysées this afternoon, winning the Tour de France on a 6th time, is really quite an emotional day.
It is. Enough to bring tears to our eyes, I have to say. It was a wonderful occasion. It would never have been justice if Lance Armstrong had not won this 6th Tour de France. I hope you've enjoyed our coverage. Your emails say that you have. You have witnessed a piece of history today in the making. Lance Armstrong, a 6 times winner of the Tour de France. He's from the United States. He is simply the best. I hope you've enjoyed our coverage from everybody on the Outdoor Life Network team. A very fond goodbye from Paris.